Hello, hello, everyone. This is Diane. Thank you for coming back. Today, I am going to be interviewing Caitlin. I'm not sure how to say your last name, so I'll let you say that.
Caitlin Matanle.
Okay, all right. This is
Don't feel
Caitlin.
bad. My entire life, I'm 34 years old, and my entire life, I think people have gotten my last name right maybe once or twice.
Okay, yeah. I was like, you know what? I'll just let her say it. So Caitlin, your expertise is helping rebel women create lives deemed unrealistic or impossible by mainstream society, right?
That's me.
That's awesome. So today we were going to be talking about what you called real self-care, the kind of nitty-gritty stuff. So let's get into it.
Awesome. Do you want me just to kind of riff?
Yeah, let's go.
Sounds
Let's just
good.
chat.
Sounds good. So, the thing about self care is that, especially in the age of social media, and don't get me wrong, I love social media, but what tends to happen with a lot of deep concepts in personal development, spirituality, is that they get distilled down to a soundbite, essentially, or more often a text bite in the case of like an Instagram caption or like a little Instagram quote.
Mhm.
And what tends to happen is a lot of people don't realize that these concepts run a lot deeper than that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a pretty quote more than anyone else. And, I love candles and bubble baths and all these things that are often equated with self care. But a big problem I find in the personal development world in general is that we tend to lean more and more as time has gone on. We tend to lean more and more towards things we can buy. We think that just like we hope that we can buy respect or love or friendship by buying things. I mean, let's face it, that's what advertising is built on. We think that we can buy self love the same way. We think if I just, buy myself this thing that I deserve or do this thing I deserve that again costs money, then that means I love myself. And as a result, we get further away from the true essence of what self-care is, which really is about the choices we make.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. I speak a lot about self-care in my group, and we talk about kind of like the romantic side of things, the bubble baths and the candles and all that kind of fun stuff. But there is also kind of a nitty-gritty side to it where you're doing the stuff that's not as fun, but definitely important and essential to really building that relationship with yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, a big part of self-care, as far as I'm concerned, is boundaries. So, we think, okay, like, there are these little things like we've been talking about that we can buy or things that we can do that we think are self-care related. But how many of us, will create this beautiful bath for us? I mean, actually, I don't do that because I don't have a bathtub, sadly. The city I live in, bathtubs aren't really a thing, sadly. So, but, we do these little, the more surface level self-care practices, which of course are lovely and important. But then we don't, assert boundaries with people in our lives. We don't stand up for ourselves. We don't give ourselves the respect that we desire. And it's really my belief that the further we get away from really identifying what our actual needs are and meeting them and doing the hard work it takes to actually get those results, in the case of maybe it takes questioning some relationships in your life and standing up to some people. Maybe it takes, stopping hating yourself from the minute we wake up. I mean, so many of us, especially as entrepreneurs, are really prone to workaholism, and to me that's really antithetical to self-care. I mean, I'm a Capricorn. I love to work hard, but the reality is, how often are we telling ourselves that, oh, we're stupid, that we should have done something differently in our businesses, that we should have done something different in our, that conversation we had earlier and just beating ourselves up. To me, getting rid of that, not just self-hatred, because that can feel really extreme. And a lot of people think, well, I don't hate myself, but do you really care for yourself? Are you an ally to yourself? Thinking about it that way really can probably open your eyes in a way that might not be so flattering. Believe me, I understand. Sometimes I look at, oh, how have I been talking to myself today? That's the kind of thing that is really the essence of actual self-care. And like you said, it's not easy. It's not glamorous. It doesn't look like something you can put on, with a little pretty picture on Instagram, but it's the kind of work that not just has to be talked about, but has to be done for all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and it's a journey, you're not gonna have this one breakdown one night and then all of a sudden you're healed and you're good to go and you can just go back to, lighting candles and meditating. It's
What,
going to
so you
be a process.
Absolutely. Wait, so you're telling me that the full moon tonight, I can't just release all of my, personal issues once and for all?
If only. If only.
Bless their hearts. Believe me, I love astrology, but,
Yeah.
you know, everybody on the internet today is talking about like the last full moon of the year. And the reality is, like you said, it's a process. And
Mm-hmm.
every day, every week, every year, we can go deeper with it. So
Yeah.
maybe it's what means true self-care to you now might change. And as you learn to stand up for yourself more, which to me is a huge part of self-care, as you learn to do that more, it gets easier. And you
Mm-hmm.
realize, oh, now I can set even stronger boundaries
Mm-hmm.
with not just others, but with my own self, with the way I talk to myself, the behavior I allow from myself as well.
Yeah. And so one way that I explain it is you can start to work from the outside in. You can start with that kind of romantic side of self-care and taking care of your body and all that kind of stuff. And that will allow you to then feel more connected to yourself so that you can be more aware of those deep inner shadows, ghosts, whatever that you need to address. And it is something that, you're going to have to go through over and over again as things come up.
Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, definitely keep doing those things. But I feel like those things, they're the entry point, like you said. When people are like, oh, buy yourself fresh flowers, you deserve it. The way I look at it is, of course I fucking deserve it. Like to me, that's like the baseline. That's not even a question. And I understand everyone's in a different place. For
Yeah.
some people, they may have a really hard time spending money on themselves, for example. I know we've been talking about not spending money, but my point here is like those little things,
Mm-hmm.
not just about the things you buy, like the flowers, but
Mm-hmm.
oh, like taking a nap, or something like that. Those little things need to be the baseline, and we need to figure out how we can go deeper.
Yeah.
And, in the case of buying things or not, because we do want to sort of separate self-care from consumerism,
Mm-hmm.
we have to look at, okay, I had one day I was really, really feeling overworked, and I was, I like flung myself on the bed. It was probably 5 o'clock. I got home from like, I don't know what I was doing, maybe working in like a cafe that day or something. And I was exhausted, and I just started scrolling through Instagram, like many of us do. And I was like, I just need to turn my brain off. And that moment, clear as day, I got the message, put the phone down, lean back in the pillows, take a deep breath. And I realized, oh, this sounds so obvious, but the real way to turn my brain off and get rest, in this case, was to lay down and maybe, don't tell anyone, take a nap. Which of course costs nothing. And
Yeah.
well, scrolling through Instagram doesn't technically cost anything either. I think very few of us would think that that was a way of, achieving self-care. It's just a way that we really turn our minds off,
Mm-hmm.
placate ourselves, and don't
Distract.
give ourselves what we really need. Distract.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is about you know as we've mentioned, starting with all of those things as kind of a baseline to guide you so that you can start to become more in tune with what you really need, and being able to explore different forms of self-care that resonate with you better, and that sort of thing. It's yeah, it's a journey. I keep trying to come up with another word, but I keep coming back to that because it really is. It's a journey.
Truly. And there's one more big piece of that, which is our attachments to the past, our attachments to our mistakes, our attachments to things that didn't go the way we want. And the only way to eliminate those is through forgiveness, you
Yeah.
know? Because the more resentment we're holding towards others, the more resentment I guarantee you have for yourself, because
Mm-hmm.
everything's a mirror. And so it's like, I don't know about you, but for me, that's like the hardest work of all, the forgiveness, because,
Yeah.
you hold on to these resentments, some of us more than others. Like I said, I am a Capricorn. We're not really known for letting things go. But, but truly, it's, it only affects you. And the more you can release those things, the more you free up space for actual, not just self-love, but really creating a new chapter for yourself in this point in your life. And finally letting things go. I mean, so many of us are holding on to these very, very, very old resentments towards ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that just comes out in these like daily angers. It
Mm-hmm.
just comes out. It's just a reflection.
Yeah. Yeah, and it leads to a lot of self-sabotage.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the forgiveness is what I remember when I was working with my therapist on a weekly basis. It was what we referred to as the F word, the true F word.
Yeah.
And it can be very, very difficult. And so I was actually working with a client today on this specific area, and I think one really powerful way to kind of do some of that deep work of forgiving is to write a letter to yourself and then just burn the shit out of it.
Oh, definitely. Burning things, the best self-care of all.
So cleansing.
Whether it's a full moon or not, but hey, I mean, tonight's a full moon, might as well burn some stuff,
Might as well. Might as well. What other ways would you recommend that people can learn to kind of forgive themselves and do some of that deep inner work if they are new to this concept?
Well, that's a great question, because my perspective of that has actually changed a lot over the past year. And I'll tell you why. So I'm naturally a very cerebral person, and I tend to think I can just think my way out of problems. And so for a long time, even the way I would approach inner work with others, with others I was guiding through the process, clients, etc., was very cerebral. Was this idea of, figuring out what your beliefs are, changing them, etc., etc. Don't get me wrong, that's still a hugely important part of my work, both my personal work and my work with clients.
Mm-hmm.
However, I've learned that underneath all of that is your energetic body. So I'm going to I don't want to get super esoteric here, because I know people watching are on varying levels with
Mm-hmm.
energetic concepts. But I personally practice Kundalini yoga, which works with the energy bodies.
I love
Oh, nice.
Kundalini.
Awesome. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of different energy modalities. I
Mm-hmm.
love emotional freedom technique or tapping.
Mm-hmm.
Even just like physical asana yoga can be helpful for this.
Mm-hmm.
Dance, embodiment practices. But anything that really allows you to access and sort of play with the energetic body, because underneath all of this, self-hatred or this, just resentment that we hold, is an energetic frequency. And when we can kind of correct that and clear things, what happens is that we are able to hold a space that's more in line with where we truly are now. So I've been experiencing this personally. 10 days ago, I started a new set in Kundalini Yoga. We call them Kriyas, a new basically yogic set. And what I found is I was really going through it. Like I was feeling a lot of old stories getting kicked up. And what I realized is that even though I personally had let go of resentment around X, Y, and Z issue, my nervous system was still holding on to it. And so it was time to go deeper and clear that. And so anything, while it is important to be aware of kind of what your stories are, eventually you really need to acknowledge that you do have a choice about letting things go. And for me, that physical practice, and now all of my clients, I'm always really encouraging them to start with the energetic, because that kind of clears away that like really old dust, that detritus. Think about it this way. If you're cleaning your attic and you haven't cleaned your attic in 10 years, there's a lot of dust. There's a lot of just like stuff that's sort of indistinguishable, that's like mixed in with dirt and like who knows what the hell it is. If you went through and picked through every single thing, figuring out what it was, like, oh, this is a postcard from my great grandmother. I don't know. It would take forever, and it wouldn't even really get you anywhere, because at a certain point, you don't actually have to pick through each and everything. What you need to acknowledge is that there's this level of gunk that's not really serving you. Clear away all the obvious big stuff, all the dirt, all the dust, all those indistinguishable objects in our metaphor with the attic, and then go through the big things. Allow the big things to reveal themselves. So if in any of these practices some big things get revealed, go deeper with that. And really, for me, it always comes around to fear. Why am I afraid of letting this thing go? Because we are attached to our stories. We're attached to how things have been. We're definitely attached to our resentments, for sure, because we like to be right. We want to be not just right, we want to be, vindicated, sort of.
Yeah.
And so we have to acknowledge that, but it can really, really help to have some kind of a physical practice allow you to clear away all that just like ick. It's a very, very technical term, ick.
Yeah, it is the scientific word for it.
It definitely is. So clear away the ick and then see what you're left with, see what you're left with then. I think most people will find that a lot of those just like emotional responses do get cleared away with that kind of conscious effort in a physical practice.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot that does require some extra time and care to clear away, but there's so many little things that we just hold on to, the ick, that just kind of sits on us like dust.
Truly.
That
psychic
we can
dust.
psychic dust that we can be able to clear away on our on our own, and in the sense of, as you were saying, movement, dance, yoga, all those kinds of things are really, really good for clearing our energy.
Absolutely.
So I know that you are currently accepting 2 more women into your private coaching. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So my people are the people who, whether you're in your late 20s, or especially if you're in your 30s, like I am, you are going to get to a point when you are going to start to be forced to make choices that are very different from the status quo. If you're in a group like this, you are most likely not desiring a normal path. And what's crazy is that, especially as women, our definition of what's a normal path is extremely narrow. It's much more narrow than it is for men.
Yeah.
So, as you start to experience these changes in your life that redirect you, maybe it's you lost a job that was supposed to be your dream career. Maybe it's, you ended a relationship you thought was going to be forever. Maybe it's like you're like me and all those things happened and more. You are forced to make different choices, and it can really feel like you have no idea what roadmap to take, and even worse, no examples of how it can be done. We tend to think certain things are impossible, especially after a certain age as women, which is completely ridiculous because, most people who feel like their lives are over after one of these big life changes happens are still super young.
Yeah.
We really have to go against this cultural conditioning that, we can only be happy if we like live in the suburbs, have children, are married, and like do the traditional path. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of those things if you've chosen them. But there are plenty of examples for doing those things and doing those things happily. And so my work with clients is to really dig deeper into it and see, what do you want for your life? I had
Yes.
always lived a bit of an unconventional lifestyle, but I also at one point several years ago was on the path of normalcy,
Mm.
where I had gotten married, I had moved to the suburbs, quite frankly. And when everything came crashing down and I realized that that was not what I wanted, I had to make huge shifts in my life. And to be honest, it was easier for me than it is for many people. And that's when I started, after I worked that personally, I started
Mm.
working with other women who are ready to make a big change. And I do this not just in my coaching practice, but also in my courses. I'm currently launching a course called The Chariot, which is all about building yourself up, creating a roadmap, and actually executing a giant change that you wish to create in your life. I call it a quantum leap, and
Mm.
doing that in a short period of time, in this case, in 1 month. And so
Oh.
through that course, I'm guiding a group of people to, get clear on what they want for their business and life and career and relationships and all of these big areas that sometimes you wake up and realize what you've created is not at all what you wanted. And it can
Mm.
feel kind of intimidating to go back and start over. But
Yeah.
my life's work is to show you how and to show you that it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your story. We have a lot in common within our stories. um, but as I always say, rock bottom is a really solid foundation to build on. Oh,
Hell
sorry.
yes. It's the only foundation. I mean, I practice the tarot, and there's if any tarot lovers are watching, you may be familiar with the card, the Tower.
Mm, yeah.
And the whole premise of that card is that everything must come crashing down in order to rebuild everything. You can't just like start to rebuild as the dust even is still settling, because what you're going to be left with is not what you expected.
Hmm. Yeah, I absolutely love that. So if anyone wants to reach out to you, should they reach out to you on Facebook or through your website,
Either one.
CaitlinMatanle.com?
Either one. So yeah, definitely feel free to DM me here on Facebook. Since this is on Facebook, that is definitely the easiest and quickest way. I'm very responsive to my DMs. Or are they called PMs on Facebook? I don't even know. I call them DMs
Either way,
everywhere.
messages.
Definitely reach out to me. Tell me what you're going through. Tell me what you are afraid to change in your life. And just share with me where you are. I love connecting with people. So you can reach me here on Facebook or on my website, CaitlinMatanle.com. Also, you can find me on Instagram as well, Caitlin Matanle. I'm definitely more active there than on Facebook, but I'm on both. So you can find me in all the
Awesome.
places.
So I'll make sure that all of that is linked on
Awesome.
this interview. So if anyone wants to reach out to Caitlin, she's amazing, and she's definitely going to change a lot of lives with this program, Chariot. That sounds like a kick-ass program.
It's one of my babies. I'm actually going to be retiring at the end of this year, retiring the program, not myself, to work on some other projects. And
Ooh.
this is, I mean, the content, basically I created the content of this program around the challenges I've experienced, making
Mm.
a lot of huge life changes extremely quickly. And I'm really excited to guide people to do the same and do so one last time before this course closes permanently. So definitely check it out.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and doing this interview. I definitely
Thank you.
loved having you on here, and your insight has been amazing.
Thank you, Diana. I've really, really enjoyed talking to you today.
Yeah, so we're going to have another interview with Caitlin next week, and that's going to be super, super fun. We're going to be diving into a different topic that she's also an expert in. So that'll be super exciting.
I can't wait to see you all again next week.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll see you all tomorrow. Lots of love and kisses. Bye, everyone.
Bye.